Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back for our second Pelican Pop-ins. Today we're going to revisit Canal Street. We have my co-host Itasha, and we have the pleasure of having the president and CEO of the New Orleans Downtown Development District, Davon Barbour. And if I'm not mistaken, Davon, you're a fellow sociology major, right?
That is correct.
Ah,
Proud, proud.
awesome. Cool. So we tend to gravitate towards these urban planning types of jobs. In our first season of Pelican Briefs, we tackled 6 different episodes, and one of our episodes was Canal Street. And Natasha and I did the history of Canal Street. As you know, it was the shopping epicenter up until the malls and the suburbs. And we were talking about kind of the revitalization efforts, particularly at the foot of Canal Street, right? So the Four Seasons, Caesars, rebranded from Harrah's, the Aquarium, Spanish Plaza. So all the efforts to really, bring back Canal Street to what it was. So we really thank you for having here today. We're excited to hear some of your insights and your thoughts, particularly on Canal Street. So not just downtown in general, but Canal Street, and to hear kind of what you think is going on here. So thank you for being here. And Natasha's going to start with our first question.
All right.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. So,
Thank you for having me.
over the past few decades, we've seen multiple initiatives around revitalizing Canal Street, but they've all seemed to kind of fizzle out. In your opinion, what's happening now that is different from in the past? And is there a comprehensive plan to successfully execute revitalization?
Sure. I think just by way of context, for those that aren't familiar with the DDD, the Downtown Development District is actually the nation's first property-based assessment district. And so what that means is the property owners within our physical boundaries pay an extra property tax that funds our operations. So many people know us for our clean and safe functions, but we also focus equally on economic development. Our district is 160 city blocks. That includes sub-districts, including the biomedical district, the warehouse district, the central business district, and of course, Canal Street. Canal Street is certainly the heartbeat of commercial activity within the district. And unlike a traditional neighborhood, Canal Street serves multiple market segments: visitors, workers, residents, and so it does require careful and meticulous planning. Certainly, our organization, we've been involved in a number of activities over the years to revitalize Canal Street. And I think what's really exciting today is that, there is this major activity coming up, which is serving as a catalyst for our community, and that's Super Bowl. There's no denying, Canal Street will be front and center. But even withstanding Super Bowl, we understand as an organization the importance of Canal Street, which is why we were involved in a number of activities to focus on the revitalization of Canal Street. Some of those past DDD efforts included the upper floors redevelopment strategy. This was essentially a roadmap for activating underutilized vacant space above ground floor spaces along Canal Street. We've also been working with the city's planning commission on what's called a transfer of development rights study. Canal Street, I think, has some of the most beautiful architecture, and so we look to celebrate that architecture, preserving it while also facilitating development elsewhere in the district and preserving those buildings. And so we're working with the planning commission to really jumpstart a number of those projects as well. And again, I think, Super Bowl has really served as a catalyst for many of these activities to move along, and so we will maintain that focus. It's really critical, particularly coming out of COVID recovery as well. Cities, I think, really understood the importance of reimagining themselves, looking at opportunities to bring workers back, to bring visitors back, and reintroduce themselves to the community. And so certainly we have an obligation as an organization to curate along with partners what we believe should be one of the most premier shopping destinations in the country.
Yeah, I think to piggyback off of what you said and talking about the beautiful, historical aspects of Canal Street, one of the areas that is getting a lot of talk recently is Spanish Plaza. Can you talk a little bit about some of the projects that we can maybe see as a community happening there?
Sure. Spanish Plaza is located within the district, and so I'm excited about what's to come there. And I should note that a lot of our work as the DDD involves public-private partnerships. We fundamentally believe that we cannot do this work alone, and private sector also relies on the public sector to deliver certain aspects as well in order to catalyze development. But with respect to Spanish Plaza, there's a lot happening there. We're very fortunate, certainly at the southern end of Canal Street, there's been a lot of new capital investment on the private side. Harrah's Casino is being rebranded as the Caesars Casino, new hotel investment there. Rockstep Capital, which is the new owner of the Riverwalk outlets. They're repositioning the property, really focused on reintroducing it to locals rather than just tourists. But we also see opportunities as an organization to activate the plaza itself. When you think about it, right now it's a little barren. It can use a little attention. There's been some great investment as well for the Four Seasons adjacent to the plaza. And so we recognize as an organization that Spanish Plaza will be front and center for Super Bowl. And so we've been looking at some creative placemaking opportunities, particularly around signage. Last year, we were fortunate as an organization to receive some grant funding from the Wisner Foundation. And so we began a process or a creative placemaking strategy working with downtown stakeholders, including property owners, residents, businesses, soliciting their feedback in terms of public art, infrastructure improvements, creative lighting, and we've identified an opportunity in Spanish Plaza. And so right now we are working through some design elements. Stay tuned. I think you're going to see some really cool things happening. We are looking to create these Instagrammable moments in downtown. I think that's really important. Cities are meant to be playful and interactive. Spanish Plaza absolutely lends itself to that. When you think about the backdrop of the Mississippi River, the private development that's around, we want people stopping, taking pictures, saying, hey, I'm in New Orleans. I love New Orleans. So we've got some exciting plans there. Stay tuned.
Yeah, it's super exciting.
It's exciting to see this embracing of placemaking. It's those little things that and we've talked about this before. These little things count, right? The landscaping has drastically improved. There's trees and shrub. It's just green and beautiful. And they tore up all the brick pavers last week at the aquarium, and that'll be more landscaping. But now it's time to spur some activity, right? And I think that's what's exciting.
No, absolutely. And I think we shouldn't, sometimes cities forget that our infrastructure can also be creative as well. And so looking to retool some of our programs, even as an example, some of the utility boxes that are located in downtown. We partnered with a local nonprofit called CVU and engaged local artists to paint the utility boxes throughout downtown. So, infrastructure doesn't have to be boring, but it can also be creative and playful as well.
Do you think what you're seeing on Canal Street will fundamentally be different than what has tried to happen in the past?
I do. I'm really excited. I'm very bullish on Canal Street. I'm a sociologist, as we talked about, so I'm fascinated with how people interact in spaces. And I'm also an urban retailer as well. A lot of my background is urban retail. Just given the importance of the history of Canal Street, I think it's absolutely critical that we turn it around. And I think we can get there. I'm optimistic for a number of reasons. First of all, again, just from a visitation standpoint, if I were to show you a heat map of downtown, you would see, the red along Canal Street. It is by far the most visited area within the city. Canal Street is the front door to the French Quarter, so we've got some opportunity there as well. The private investment that's occurring at the southern end with the Four Seasons or the Audubon Aquarium, the new ferry terminal, Caesars, that's a lot of private investment. And I think, when we think about revitalizing Canal Street, we have to think about it in terms of nodes. Look for those strengths of opportunities. We can't tackle it in one segment. At the other end of Canal Street, we've got a lot of activity there. It's happening as well, which really gets me excited, and that's the bio district. So we have to look at Canal Street in terms from a merchandising strategy, if you will. I look at downtown as our shopping mall. And so, a private developer, owner of a shopping mall would, locate different uses together. And I think we'll have that same approach as well along Canal Street. The sort of up the lakeside portion of Canal Street is really oriented towards the bio district and more residential activity. There is a bio district strategic plan that has been created. So with Tulane University's downtown campus expansion, I think that presents an incredible opportunity. The work that's going on at the Bio Innovation Institute, that's where we want innovation to take place. I equally think, just given the focus, the healthcare assets and eds and meds tools that are located, that there's an opportunity to focus on, MedTail. That's something that you'll hear about in retail strategy. From a consumer experience, there's this decentralization of healthcare. People want to be able to see the dentist, see the doctor close to work. Well, we've got that opportunity right along Canal Street. Downtown is the largest employment center in the state. So let's make it convenient for workers to just simply, walk over to Canal Street to see their dentist, to see their doctor, to see their specialist. Those are some ways that we look to activate, Canal Street from that area. When you look at, again, the work that's taking place on the Riverside, again, with the private investment there, it's really filling in the middle there. And that's where our work really gets, I would say, the nitty gritty in terms of, the details matter. Earlier this year, when we released our State of Downtown report, we also at the same time released our economic development strategy. And one of the key components of that economic development strategy is a focus on Canal Street. Again, cultivating relationships with the commercial brokers, cultivating relationships with the property owners, providing additional financial resources to both property owners as well as small businesses, focusing on those capital improvements that creates a desirable shopping experience. That all matters. And I can't underscore the importance of why the time to strike is now. Cool time for cities all across the country. When you think about your traditional shopping mall, it already has significant competitive advantages. One, your traditional shopping center has a single owner. Therefore, they have the ability to control the tenant mix. They typically have the relationships with brokers. They're well funded, so they have the capital to build out the space. And of course, we can't forget about this parking. We know that's something that's important to a consumer. In the downtown space, organizations like the DUD, we're working to coalesce multiple property owners around a single vision of what that shopping experience can be like. And so, that's why we identify key property owners that really believe in Canal Street, invest in those people, provide support to them so that they can continue to serve as inspiration. We have a number of long-term businesses that have been, I think, investing in Canal Street. This year, we've had, of the ground floor retail businesses, 16 have opened within the district. Of that, a third of those were located along Canal Street. Some are names that many of us know. Ruby Slipper, for example, they reopened their flagship store in the 1000 block of Canal Street. A national brand, It's Sugar, opened up in the 700 block of Canal Street. Ruby Slippers, which has been Rubenstein's, which has been in business, for almost 100 years, invested in a new hotel. And so it's those individual investments that are making a big difference in Canal Street. I also think, going back to Super Bowl, because we cannot ignore the importance of the event, it has really created this opportunity to focus on what I would describe as deferred capital improvements. And so you can expect to see many, many physical improvements along Canal Street. Sidewalk repairs, new lighting, street resurfacing. We've worked with several city departments, including public works, to restripe the street, make sure that we have crosswalks. So there'll be a number of physical improvements along the way for Canal Street. We think that's critically important. Again, the shopper is we need to provide confidence to that shopper that they're in a safe environment, that they're in an attractive environment. And so I think all the stars are really aligned at this moment.
Cool. Yeah, it's exciting. The Super Bowl is a catalyst event. And you talked a lot about kind of the retail, particularly that middle part of Canal Street, which Itaj and I talked a lot about. And I'm also struck by this idea of, Canal Street. We think about tourists, but you are driving effort to reintroduce locals to Canal Street, which is something I'm very fascinated by. So my question is, when I think, and Natasha and I are both from here, right? So we've kind of seen Canal go through its stages. Sure. And I think about, people from New Orleans get agitated at the t-shirt shops and kind of the touristy stuff. And something I've thought about a lot is why, and I'm going to use a specific example here, but this is kind of an example of local restaurants. Why is there not simple things like a Raising Cane's on Canal Street? Like these simple low-hanging fruit. Like I'm not asking for another Brasa. I'm simply asking for like a Cane's, a CC's Coffee, another PJ's. Like, why aren't these simple low-hanging fruit local chains that could easily just, it's weird to me that there's like not one Cane's downtown. All these drunk people would gladly get a Cane's. It reduces blight. It's a local store. It's like, I think we overthink this sometimes when there's like actually very low-hanging solutions that we could do. So I'm curious your thoughts on that.
Sure. But let me just say this. We seek to achieve a retail merchandise mix that's well balanced, locals as well as nationals. And I think sometimes communities fear that it will lose its character by having lots of nationals come in.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the case at all. It's not
I think we can have local and Chipotle. I think we can have both.
Exactly. It's not an either or proposition. Again, I think we've got some people that have invested. Ruby Slipper is a local concept. They've shown that Canal Street is a viable business
French truck
opportunity.
coffee.
French Truck Coffee moved into a former Starbucks space. They are killing it. I would invite any of you to join me for coffee on a weekend or a Monday morning to see the crowds, visiting French Truck Coffee. And I think there are other opportunities as well for other retailers. And so we have been spending a lot of time showcasing the business opportunity. In fact, this year we were fortunate to host a major retail convention. There's an organization called ICSC, formerly known as the International Council of Shopping Centers. They selected New Orleans as the host city for what's called the OAC conference. This is one of the most coveted conferences, as it essentially hosts about 1,600 key decision makers for major retail brands. And so we took them along Canal Street. We took them in other parts of the city to showcase the business opportunities that lie here. So there are some things in the works. And so I think we can get there. I think it's important to remember as well, retail decisions aren't just simply made in, isolation. It's, you're looking at, the spending power, you're looking at real estate cost. You've got to have an owner that's willing to also provide the type of financial structure to make the deal work. And sometimes as an organization, we step in to help close that gap. I think that's one of the roles as the public sector. For example, one of our key programs is our facade improvement grant program, where we provide up to $20,000 to property owners or even a business to make exterior improvements. We launched that business. That business program assists with signage as well. That program was instrumental in bringing It's Sugar to Canal Street. We also provided some additional support to French Truck Coffee. I'm hoping that we're able to get some additional resources where we can create some programs that have worked in other communities. For example, a tenant improvement grant program. That would be instrumental in helping to reduce some of the build-out costs, particularly in an urban market.
Totally.
Urban retail can be challenging, particularly in this market when we see the shift in demographics. A lot of retailers have been fleeing to the suburbs. And so as the public sector, in urban environments, we really have to get creative about closing that gap. And so I think we can have more of those concepts. We've been in discussion with them. We recently attended a retail trade show, again, showcasing the business opportunities. So stay tuned. Do not count Canal Street out. Again, we've got businesses that have been here that believe in Canal Street. So we want to support them.
When we talk about, really bringing locals back to Canal Street, and like creating more of a promenade experience with dining on the sidewalks, more trees and things. What are some of your thoughts about structuring Canal Street in that way?
Sure. No, it's a great question. Again, Canal Street from a tenant standpoint, I'm thinking about what is my leasing approach, looking at block by block. I mean, that's how we have to break it down. Certainly, food and beverage has led the way in terms of leasing activity. No surprise there, given the fact that New Orleans is synonymous with food. And I think we will continue to dominate in that category. I would like to see an increase in apparel along Canal Street. But I do think, again, as we focus on capital improvements to improve the physical appearance of Canal Street, I think that will make it a lot more easier to attract some of those uses. Typically, food and beverage are pioneers in neighborhoods. Often in many communities, you will see it's food that leads the way, and then the other merchandise categories follow along. Because face it, we all love food, we love to eat, we love to drink. If it's good, we will go there. And so I think we'll continue to have the same success there. Again, the physical improvements will go a long way. The new lighting, the landscaping. We've got some concepts in the pipeline right now, working with the Arts Council to install some murals along Canal Street. Again, making this attractive, leisurely shopping experience along Canal Street. So I think those tools will assist.
And so here's a question for you. It's an open-ended question, and whatever comes to mind. If you could list 5 businesses you would love to see on Canal Street, what would they be?
Okay, I love this question. So we're going to ignore whether I have the real estate space for them or not. So I would say I'm going to start with top 2, and then we'll expand
Oh,
from
it's
there.
top 2. Okay, go.
Number 1, I would love an urban format IKEA. IKEA has been testing a smaller footprint in
Ooh,
some
don't play with me.
Yeah, I
Okay.
just saw my
space.
first city IKEA this summer. I want one of those too.
This is the first state I've lived in where I've not had an IKEA. I'm accustomed to having an IKEA. I need IKEA in my life. And so I would
Good
love to
answer.
see an IKEA. I would love for them to bring the test concept to New Orleans.
Cool.
Another retailer which I think would do phenomenal along Canal Street is the retail brand and apparel Uniqlo. If you are not familiar with Uniqlo, I would describe it as a casual concept, or maybe I should say disposable chic. Excuse me, disposable chic, almost like a higher level of a Gap.
Okay.
Great for basics, fashionable, Japanese brand. Given the number of colleges and universities that we have here, and also
Mhm.
affordable, I
True.
think that they would do absolutely great in this market.
Do you think retail could make it in the storefronts on Canal, not Canal Place, but actual storefronts?
I do. I think, some retailers are testing smaller footprints. That was one of the benefits of COVID. I think it allowed some
True.
retailers to think outside the box in terms of looking at that footprint. We think about sustainability as well. A number of retailers look, well, what can we do to reduce the impact on the environment? Certainly, a transfer of development rights study and our upper floor development strategy is vitally important for that to be successful. So I do put that out there as a caution. Not every retailer operates well in a multi-level building. It's really in those dense markets. I would say, like a Chicago or a New York, where retailers, particularly national retailers, have
Right.
felt comfortable testing, a multi-level building. But that's why it's so important for us to make sure that we're removing a lot of the bureaucracy to allow that development to occur. One of the, I keep going back to the upper floors development strategy because it's so important, not only to adaptive reuse, but for allowing some of the other retailers to become successful, is showing an example that you can take one of these multi-story buildings and activate it. One of our successful retailers, he operates two men's clothing stores along Canal Street in the 900 block. His name is Hami Halun. He operates Live and then Nouveau. And he actually worked with us because of our upper floors development strategy to purchase 5 buildings in the 1000 block of Canal Street, where the new Ruby Slipper flagship store is located, and adaptively renovated those buildings. And so that will now be the Mayfair.
I
And
saw
so
that.
using examples like that, we can show other retailers, hey, there's an opportunity. You can actually combine floor plates. There's a way to successfully manage ingress and egress and still meet all your fire code requirements. Open up on Canal Street.
That's fair. Any other stores you would want to see? Personally would love an urban Target, like the urban Target.
Urban Target is absolutely on the list as well. I can say that we did have Target here back in March when we hosted the OAC conference. So they were in attendance and did get to experience Canal Street and some other neighborhoods.
Awesome. Well, Davon, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Before we go, can you just let our listeners know if they want to learn more about what the Downtown Development District is doing, or if there are ways that the public can get involved and help support you guys in your work, where they can find you and get additional information?
Sure. No, thank you. I encourage everyone to visit downtownneworleans.com to learn more about the organization. You will find a robust level of information about our programs. I also encourage you to sign up for our weekly newsletter so that you don't miss a beat.
They're here.
We are, celebrating, doing ribbon cuttings with the Chamber of Commerce. We're promoting our different initiatives that are underway. There's a lot underway to move the needle forward in downtown. You can also follow us on social media as well. We've on LinkedIn, Twitter, as well as Instagram. So I encourage you to get involved with us, sign up, send us an email. We were very, very responsive, but we are excited and positive about the future of downtown.
As are we. We are super excited about everything that you guys are doing. Looking forward to the Super Bowl as well. And listeners, if you would like to connect with us at Pelican Briefs, we are LA Pelican Briefs on all platforms. That's Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. And you can also listen to us on your favorite podcast platform, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. And please definitely check out our Patreon. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here. This
Appreciate
was
it.
great. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Pelican Briefs.
If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button.
If you are loving the show, you can help us keep the conversation going by supporting us on Patreon.
Your contribution on Patreon ensures we can continue producing quality content you love.
Click the link in the description to become a patron today.
Until next time, this is Pelican Briefs.